When have you ever looked at photos of Greenland?
Every day. It's my Roman Empire. Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about
board games.
And
board gamey things.
Exactly. We are here again today with another pumped up Kickstarter. And today's Kickstarter preview is on Expedition Northwest Passage HMS Terror Edition from Maple Games, who so kindly sponsored this video. As per usual with our preview videos, we are going to give you a little overview and then we're just going to jump into a little discussion. Just want to shout it out. This is a prototype and it's based in Canada.
It is based in Canada.
And Maple Games is Canadian.
Kind of.
What do you mean?
Well, it's like between Greenland and
Canada.
The Arctic. It's not all Canada.
Canada. Well, it's part of our history, Jeff. I'm sure it was
I'm
in a
just saying,
heritage moment.
It's not all in Canada. Greenland's not in Canada.
Anyways, let's jump into the preview.
In 1845, Sir John Franklin led an expedition on behalf of the British Royal Navy to find and explore the last portion of the Northwest Passage, regardless of the cost. The Royal Navy gave Franklin two heavy ships, HMS Terror and HMS Urbis, filled with scientific equipment, 1,000 books, a crew of 128 men, and enough food to last for 3 years. They left England in May and encountered whalers along the west coast of Greenland. There, they waited for more favorable weather conditions for crossing the Lancaster Sound. Once the weather improved, they sailed into unknown waters and no one ever heard from them again. Expedition Northwest Passage takes place over 10 rounds of exploration. Each round, players allocate their crew members to maneuver their ships and sleds through the icy maze of islands which make up the Arctic archipelago. During their journey, expeditions must survive the endless Arctic winter, send out their sleds to make observations, and wait for the ice to melt again. At the end of the last exploration round, the expeditions which successfully return from this adventure will earn prestige from their discoveries and the progress they've made.
Okay, so we are back. Now, let's chat about Expedition Northwest Passage, which for the remainder of the video, I will just refer to as Northwest Passage.
Got it.
Because if I had to say Expedition Northwest Passage, HMS Terror Edition.
Is it HMS?
Yeah, HMS. Halifax Marina. See? Anyways, if I had to say the whole thing, I would run out of breath. I'd run out of words. This game is a bit of a race game. It's a bit of a tile placement game where essentially you have this board in front of you. It's a shared board where you're both going to be, or both, however many players you have, are going to be putting out tiles on this board to form the ocean and icebergs. A passage to the Northwest Passage, actually. And so you have also your own personal player board in front of you. On your turn, you can do an action and you can choose from 7 different actions on your board. You can take a tile, you can play a tile, you can refresh the tiles, you can explore, you can discover, you can move, and you can move crew from your ship to your sled. So every player has a ship and a sled. What you're trying to do is get from Greenland to the Northwest Passage and back to Greenland. So on your turn, you're going to choose an action to do. Now, most of the time, you are probably going to be choosing to either take a tile or play a tile, and then moving your boat or your sled across the passage, because that's the goal. You're trying to get across, okay? So the thing with the tile placement in this game is there are water spots pieces and there are snowy ice pieces. Everything has to match up. And what you're trying to do also is maybe block off your opponent from being able, what they're trying to do, which is the same thing that you're trying to do. Now, what's really interesting about it, though, is that there's almost like a timer mechanic in this game, and every turn there's a little disc, or every round a little disc is going to move. Half of that disc has a snowflake, and the other half has like heat waves, and anything that's above the snowflake is frozen. Okay, which means your boat can't move through ice.
Correct.
However, your sled can, so you have to it's almost like a push and pull of using your boat versus your sled in order to make your way to the passage. Anything that's below in the heat wave is melted, so your sled can move across the icy parts, but it can't move across the water, which is a little bit of an interesting thing. And every round that token is moving, and so the parts of the board are kind of freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing throughout the game. Plays over 10 rounds. Okay, there's also different tokens that will appear on the board based on the tiles that you put out, and those are almost like just collection pieces.
That's a set collection victory point conditions. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can pick those up through the explore or the discover action, and depending on which section of the board you pick those icons or those little pieces up, you're going to score more points, and then they're also going to score you points at the end of the game based on whoever has the most, the second most, etc.
Because the board has as you get closer to the Northwest Passage, it's like 3 times the value, 2 times the value, 1 times the value, as you move closer to your end goal.
Exactly. The other thing about this game and how you actually take actions is you have a crew. Each player has a little grouping of people, their crew. Each action costs a certain amount of crew members to do. So you would spend your crew, do the action. At some point, because things are going to be frozen, you have to get your sled onto the board. There is an action that allows you to move your crew from your boat to your sled. So if you want to be able to actually do things with your sled, then you have to shift your crew over. And then at some point in the game, you're going to want to put them back into the boat, because once again, you are trying to get everybody back to Greenland.
And crew can only be used for the corresponding vehicle that you're in. So if your crew's in your boat, the actions they're taking are for your boat. If they're in the sled, the actions they're taking are for the sled.
Exactly. So like I said, the game goes over 10 rounds, but there's 2 end game conditions. Either you get through the 10 rounds or everybody gets back to Greenland. Another thing that you're going to be doing is potentially forming islands. So if you form an island based on the tiles that you're placing out, you're going to get little map tokens, which are also going to score you points. So all of the tokens are going to score you points.
And the islands score you victory points as well, depending on the size of tiles.
Exactly, how big the island is. Then anything that didn't make it back to Greenland by the end of the game is going to deduct points. So, in a nutshell, that is the game. You're placing out tiles, you're moving your ships, you are doing a bit of a race, because the first person that gets to the Northwest Passage is going to score more points than the next person, who's going to score more points than the next person. Same thing goes for Greenland. So you really want to zip down and then zip back up so that you can score as many points as possible, also making sure that you're not leaving anything behind. Okay?
I think it's an interesting dichotomy between you want to get to your goal, but you don't want to help anyone else. So what's interesting is on your turn, and I could see this coming out. We played a 2-player, but I could see this coming out, especially at 3 and 4. Is when you place out a map tile, other people can access that progression towards the Northwest Passage. So it's really interesting. I want to place out a map tile so I can move further along, but you might be helping other people as well, because then they don't have to play a map tile on their turn. They can just move into the tile that you placed.
Exactly.
It's an interesting tug and pull. It's one of the most unique race games I've played. It's not easy. There's only so many rounds, and it's very quick, and things happen very snappy.
Yes, and another thing that you have to keep in mind is that there always must be a water path between Greenland and Northwest Passage, so it also kind of limits the tiles that you're going to be able to place in certain places. Plus, you have to make sure that everything matches up perfectly. The land, the sea, even diagonally, it has to match up. So the tiles that do come up, it's important that you make sure you pick and choose the right one. So, who is this game for? I would say that this game is for anybody. Well, obviously, if you like the theme, it's a bit of a unique theme that I haven't really seen before. If you enjoy a bit more of like not heavy rule set, but a bit more of crunch in terms of the strategy that you're trying to do.
It's a puzzly race game.
It's a puzzly race game, so if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, this could be for you. If you are prone to something like analysis paralysis, look out, because there are often times when you're sitting there kind of looking at the tiles being like, what's the perfect one? And maybe there's not a perfect one that's going to come up. There's a lot of different ways that you can get points, but you only have so many workers, and at some point your workers are splitting off between your sled and your ship, and then you can only do the corresponding actions kind of surrounding that boat or that sled, and they might be in different parts of the board, and so there's a lot kind of going on that you need to think about, so just kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's certainly not something where if you want to do everything, you're not going to be able to, and you're not going to score well. It's really one of those things like, okay, I'm going to focus on the race element. I'm going to focus on the set collection element. There's a few ways that you can maximize your points, but if you do all of it, you're not going to do well.
Exactly. So that is a little bit more about Expedition Northwest Passage, HMS Terror Edition from Maple Games. If this sounds like a game that you are interested in, make sure that you go and check out a bunch of content. Our friends over at Covray have a full how to play, so if you want to kind of get to know how the game works a little bit more, we'll link that video down below. But we will make sure to put all of the information that you need down in the description below. Click them links if you're interested.
CTLs.
CTL. Click them link. If you're interested in buying board games, not this one quite yet, but other board games, you should first start by checking your friendly local gaming store. And for us, that is...
the Boardroom Game Cafe.
Oh, heck yeah. Do you like snacks?
I do.
Perfect. Where do people get snacks?
Munch Pack. I was just munching some right now.
Yeah.
Cola gummies from China.
They're delicious and not nutritious.
Not nutritious.
If you like what you see,
please subscribe.
We hope to see you again soon. And now we say goodbye. Goodbye.
Later days.
It's not the end, 'cause if it were the end, oops, it would not be so. All's well that ends well. Oops. Ugh. No, sometimes I wish it was. So nice, so pretty, so
That's
cold.
Iceland.
What?
Iceland is nice.
So
I don't think
Greenland.
Is it?
Yeah.
When have you ever looked at photos of Greenland?
Every day. It's my Roman
true.
Empire. Okay, so what am I going to call it? I'm just going to call it what should I call it? Expedition Northwest Passage or just Northwest Passage?
I would say just Northwest Passage.
Okay, so for the remainder of this video, we're going to refer to the game as North Passage because if I have to... Oh my God. Okay. Turn it over again. Jesus. What is it? Northwest Passage.
It ain't that difficult, man.
You can read... What's the thing when you take the refract?